Scott, this was such a fantastic movie. I went in expecting a lot, and I got more than what I expected. This very much triggered my anxiety. How do you get to that point as a director and as a writer?
Well, thank you, firstly, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. I think, yeah, I think I think it was a case of like trying to focus on really what the film is trying to focus on, right? Having this single idea of like really playing up the horror of heights, the fear of falling, and how to do that in the very best way. So we kind of, I remember we kind of had the idea from myself and Jonathan, the writer. We were filming another movie. We were at a height. We're on top of a stadium, actually. And we just thought, Jesus, there's so much in the idea of falling that there's a lot to be tapped there, and could make a really interesting story. And we went about kind of looking at different references and looking at Free Solo was a big influence, the documentary of Alex climbing up the El Capitan. I also love the sequence, the Dubai sequence, Mission Impossible, the tower climb. And we got really lucky that we got like the riggers and the guys who did this movie. So it was, and the things that kind of we learned really was doing it for real was essential, right? Doing it and filming at height was essential to capture it and for it to really work. So that was kind of a number one. And number two was kind of putting ourselves in the situation that's hard to get out of, and then kind of writing your way out of it. You know, and it was so that was the kind of challenge that we laid down for ourselves, and that's what we kind of gave birth to it, really.
That opening sequence really gives a nice pace to what the movie's going to be.
Yeah.
How difficult was it to get to that point in that opening sequence where you care about all these characters and what happened?
Well, hopefully, yeah, that's the challenge, right? With the writing, I think it's also casting and performing, though, isn't it? It's like casting the right people, because I think like I remember meeting Mason, who plays Dan, and just feeling like this is a guy. I love him when I meet him instantly, right? So for me, kind of he kind of drew you into that, and yeah, there's an efficiency to kind of like meeting characters and then having the chance to shine, and for you to kind of grow into them for that moment. And I think that, it is difficult, but with great actors and with kind of let's say hopefully smart writing, it gets them into a situation where they can really be themselves and kind of show apart themselves that the audience attached to, and that takes us on that journey. So it's tricky, and it's always tricky when you're kind of hanging onto rocks and doing all kinds of nonsense in between. That's the other hard part with that, right?
Definitely. And for climbers and base jumpers, they're always looking for that next challenge. What kind of research did you do into climbing and base jumping in order to write?
Yeah, I did a ton, actually. Like John and I, when we started, we were like, let's say we had the idea of doing something at height, but we didn't know where and what. And so we did a lot of research, a lot of internet research of things, and that really kind of played in. We played them. We kind of played up to some of the things we saw, like of people going roofing and hanging off roofs, and like things that terrified me to watch. And I think it was trying to figure out why it terrified me. And I think part of that is that kind of the filmmakers of today who are going and filming these things, it's a very intimate, kind of personalized point of view experience. And so that actually ended up feeding a lot into how we went about the film. But ultimately we came across these crazy towers that they had across the US, these big massive radio towers that were bouncing TV signals across the desert, and it was almost unbelievable to see they even existed. And then I saw a video of a guy climb up one, change a light bulb, and I remember thinking, holy cow, this is like the ultimate kind of worst experience for someone with heights. So we kind of found our kind of conceptual kind of tower character in that, based it around a real one, which is like 2,067 I think feet tall, and then pretty much just based it on that reality. We actually ended up getting the guys who built that tower to build our tower, and so we used because obviously you even filming on it, right, it's got to be structurally sound and all these things, so we really dug into the detail on that side, and again, it kind of helps with the movie, right, because you're really there, you're really touching things, you're really climbing and whatnot. So it was very yeah, so that's kind of how we kind of came up with it, and then we kind of went about hopefully making it, blocking it out and writing it, making it fun,
Yeah, definitely. And for a lot of writers, they write what they know. What kind of experiences did you pull from to start building this anxiety on the page?
Well, from an anxiety point of view, I think definitely pulled from what understanding, like, to get into the characters and care about them. And I think this is something that has happened too often, unfortunately, with a lot of films. I think a first act of a movie, right, when you're getting to know the characters and when you're getting to kind of meet everybody, is so vital, because to go on a journey with someone, you want to get to know them, you want to understand them, you want to know what drives them, you want to know what's behind it all, and have that context. And I think that it was really important to kind of have the right characters with the right backstories, played by the right actors who can kind of evoke that empathy and kind of really pull you in to their journey. So I think as much as what happens from climbing the tower onwards, the arguably more important part is behind that to get to that point, right? So I think it was and I had to fight for that a lot, really, because it was like it's an instinct with kind of, you know, a lot of kind of distributors and people that, like, not Lionsgate, thank God, but like you know, it's instinctual to want to get to the kind of meat sooner, but in doing so you kind of ruin it. So you have to kind of fight those battles. And I think that I guess Jono and I just kind of learned that over time, that with when we'd been forced into that corner before and it not worked out, we kind of really fought to make sure we were with the characters for the right reasons, and it was taking us up there. And then yeah, and as an experience, I would say we looked at moments of experience, or either documentary or you know, a couple of other movies that really felt like they captured height well and captured that kind of fear of falling well. And it always seems to go back to the human element. It's the human element. It's like, it's as much about the breathing and the sounds and the immersion that kind of put you there. And I think that's why, really, like as an experience to watch the movie, that's why I think it plays so well theatrically, is because you get immersed. You're really using the tools that you have in that experience to kind of be there. And it's yeah, and I think that's the way that hopefully people will enjoy it.
Definitely. Yeah. You talked about the human element. You guys got an amazing cast because they did fantastic. You know, what was that process like, and how did you feel, you know, getting these actors?
Yeah, well, I was thrilled. It was the first time in a movie making experience where I've actually hats off to our producers like James, Christian, David, for encouraging to cast the right people in these parts, as opposed to very often what happens is you'll be asked to cast the wrong people for the wrong reasons. But as a purity exercise, it's like, okay, who's really best for this? And we did, you know, we did a bunch of stuff, but ultimately it was like doing a chemistry read I did chemistry with various different actors, and I remember Ginny and Grace did this chemistry read and just blew me away. They kind of are an element. There's a bit of the characters in them, and that definitely carries through. And I think that you know, that they are not only just incredible in terms of their range and what they can do, but just as human beings, they're really pure. And I think there's a part of that where, knowing that you're going to be at this height in this ridiculous circumstance to shoot the movie, and you're going to be kind of stuck up there all together, and it's a very intimate thing, you almost want them to be as close as their characters as you can, for real, because you want them in that space so that when things kind of fall back, they fall back into the right seat. You know what I mean? And I think I think with both of them, the positive sides of those characters are the girls, and they're wonderful human beings, and just incredible actors who really I put through hell by kind of putting them in this situation and kind of pushing them and doing all these things that we did, doing their own stunts and all this like craziness that they went through. They were fully into it, and just, you know, and I was, yeah, like the performances were incredible, but also I think hats off. They need a nod to their Tom Cruise physicality that they went through, and actually putting themselves in that situation, because I think that's why, you know, to kind of loop back with the idea there of like, you really want to see it through their eyes. There's also an element with a height, right, where you want to really be with the actors doing the actual thing. So when, you know, like we've got Grace when the ladder falls back there, like I always wanted this kind of going over the edge of a roller coaster effect, and she's right there in the camera, and I remember her saying, like, can I have a go, can I do it, instead of the stunt person, which allowed me to then film a, you know, do it the right way, do it the way for real, and really capture that. And so yeah, they went through hell and back, like they really got beaten up, but they loved it, and they went for it. And you know, when they got hurt, they went back and did it harder, and it was like it was great. So for me, they were absolutely wonderful, and yeah, I love them to bits.
And you touched a little bit about the director of photography. You guys had some amazing shots that aren't the typical shots. What kind of conversations did you have with the director of photography to get these types of shots?
Yeah, hats off to McGregor, who's the director of photography, who's cinematographer. Who, yeah, I remember early on it was okay. We got to getting up there and getting to that height is one thing. Like capturing it, we just got to capture it in the very best way. So it's kind of like an engineering component to how we go about that, because we're filming in real sunlight in the real desert. So I remember him saying to me that what we really need to do is just find excellent locations that we can film on these IMAX scale cameras and actually capture for real in the detail that are there, in the beauty of how they are. So finding the locations became this super important thing to get right. And I think once we've done that, it was a case of how to best cover it, right? Like how to best show the movie. And two things occurred. Like one was you want to make it like one thing in terms of making it look like the spectacle it is timing out the filming of it in the right way. So like your sun is the key. Well, it's the backlight, I suppose, but it's the big light, right? So you've got the sun, and then you've got these very rudimentary kind of ways to kind of work around it. We weren't in a situation where you could put a big silk up and have all this elaborate stuff. It's just like you've got to use what you've got there. So it was very kind of raw, and what that amounts to really is planning, that we can film this scene here from this angle here at this time of day. So we would film all of that stuff like that, and then when the sun moves around, we'll shoot this bit, and so it became a dance between kind of the actors having to perform and get in the moment for that moment. It became kind of the camera and the teams working through that to be in the right place at the right time. It's scheduling of getting everyone up there at the right. It's a real dance to kind of pull that off, and it was. I'll be honest, it was hell to do. There was lots of things that went on, but it was it was really hard to do it, but we did it. And I think and hats off to Mac for pushing it to keep it all real, to film it all like that. And I'm thrilled with the results, really.
Well, congratulations. This was a fantastic movie. Great watch. And I think every goal you set, you met or exceeded. So congratulations, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. Pleasure talking to you. Yeah.